Hi, Faigy. I have a question.
Hi.
First, tell folks who you are, and then I want to drop you into a hypothetical.
Okay. Hi. I'm Faigy Gilder. I'm a nonprofit marketing consultant and fractional employee for nonprofits. I have more than 15 years of experience specifically in doing nonprofit marketing. I started my own business about 3 years ago. And before that, I was entirely in house at a lot of different organizations. And I have a
Right,
master's of public administration. So I really
right on.
deeply understand nonprofits. And now I work with nonprofits one on one to give support to staff members who are wearing three hats, who are stretched thin, to your development professional who doesn't have time to thank people or follow up. And I take a data driven approach, a marketing psychology approach, and a systems approach to helping you address your problems.
All right, so then here's my first hypothetical, okay?
Hmm.
Um, let's assume you've got a new client,
Okay.
and the sales process is done, the paperwork is signed. Today is day one. They're close by, so not even virtual. You're going to walk in at 9 a.m. on a Monday and
Mm,
actually be there, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a very non 2025. So you walk in and it's your first day. It's your first minute, right?
Hmm.
As CMO
Hmm.
for this. What's your dream scenario that you walk into, and what's the nightmare scenario that you walk into?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. I'm sorry, I just noticed the lighting. So my dream scenario with a new client, I walk in, step through the front door, I meet everyone, and they're excited I'm there, right? If you don't have team buy-in,
Right.
no external party is going to get anywhere. So that's one. Everyone on staff feels valued and like their insights are valued. So when I walk through the door, you don't have people thinking, oh, I could have told them all this. They didn't have to pay her to do this,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Those are two of the fundamentals. Um, Working, if I notice the staff approach the marketing problems and challenges we're going to work on together with curiosity, openness, mutual respect, open communication. Those are all part of a dream scenario. If they have clear goals about what they want to accomplish, right, and how they imagine marketing can help them get there,
Right.
that is really part of a dream scenario as well.
And what's the
Um,
nightmare?
the nightmare. Oh gosh, I feel like there's a lot of different ways that can go.
Yeah.
Um,
We could even say we're not talking about any particular client that you've ever had,
of course
but
not.
the nightmare is what?
The nightmare is toxic leadership who don't
Yeah.
value their employees, don't value their time, don't value their insights. A board that's changing direction every other minute, right?
Right.
So we have a few goals, we're chugging along, and then we have to like make a left turn and a right turn. Marketing responsibilities that are scattered across the organization with a lack of documentation. That's something we could work on, but it's very, very difficult. And if you have staff who are already burned out because you didn't get the help in time and then they're resistant to
Right.
change, that's a nightmare scenario.
Okay. All right. And Evan, hi. Hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm Evynn McFalls. I am a leadership development coach as well as a fractional employee for professional services organizations, B2B, enterprises, and technology. Over 15 years of experience. It so seems like a lucky number today. Um,
Yes.
and I take a similar approach where I'm thinking through I'm thinking through and as marketing as a partner to the entire consumer life cycle that companies are working through. So considering, of course, messaging, public relations, user experience, but also thinking about things such as customer experience, affinity, really thinking in partnership with each part of the organization from sales. Of course, that's one of the most important relationships that marketing has with an organization, but also thinking about things like client success or customer experience, thinking about that critical relationship with this chief financial officer, really, taking an approach where marketing isn't in a silo, but really it's integrated into the broader ecosystem of how a business does business.
So in your case, like, if you're gonna like just here's here's the short form nightmare, and here's the short form dream. What's the nightmare and the dream when you walk in on day one?
The nightmare scenario, I'll start there because I want to end on a positive note. The nightmare that I walk in on is, I think a lot of what Faigy said about, is the team burnt out at this point? Are the goals unclear? Are people
Right.
jumping all over? Is the board jumping all over the place with regard to their goals? More so than all of that, I think that my number one nightmare scenario is that they are bringing me on as a fractional chief marketing officer to solve
Right.
problems that are actually not within the wheelhouse of marketing. That's not to say that I cannot help, but that is a major red flag to me, in that it says, you don't really know what marketing is meant to do at your company, and we can work on that, but whew, we may be in some trouble. The
What's the
dream
dream?
scenario, the dream scenario is all parties who are involved in working on this venture have a fairly strong understanding of their goals, how they are scoring those goals, or whatever their objective and key results are. People are bought in, and there's a sense of not only team alignment, because of course, if they're bringing in a fractional CMO, then hopefully they've done the work to bring the team along to feeling
Right.
positively about that, but also that executive team. Again, marketing must, in my view, be able to partner effectively across the organization. And if it has been historically siloed, or if they haven't really thought about marketing's relationship with the broader organization, and the executives are kind of battling with each other about what the purpose of marketing at said organization is, again, red flag. It's something that can be worked on, but I find that executive misalignment tends to be one of the number one reasons why marketing initiatives fail at organizations.
Okay, then let me ask this then. It's not day one. We're going to go far into the future, day 90, which is about as far in the future as I ever go. It's day 90, all right, Evan? What is that client's aha moment about having having brought on a fractional CMO, or having brought on you? It's like I kind of knew there'd be value in this, so we decided to bring you in and allocate budget for it. But like, now I get it. What's the aha moment typically for clients?
On day 90, I would like to think that, or yeah, on day 90, I would like to think that the client, in working with me, has deeply understood how the company's goals and its strategy cascade into marketing
Mm.
procedures, marketing tactics, the marketing strategy. So they understand how those things should cohere with one another.
So it's
There
not
is
an aha moment about the individual fractional CMO. It's the aha moment that marketing is supposed to be integrated.
And I
Gotcha.
think that that term is the most important
Yeah.
of them all. Is marketing must be integrated across your organization. It is a partner. It is at the seat of the table. It is,
Right.
I'll put it very simply. If you're bringing on a fractional CMO so they can execute whatever idea happens to cross your mind every single day of your life, you probably do not need to hire a fractional CMO. You need to hire an assistant. And
Right.
good luck to you. If you yeah, and if you really, really want to transform your go-to-market motion at your organization, then your fractional CMO is ideally helping you to execute on that by partnering with the other functions at your organization, as well as listening to your customers and building processes and tactics and an overall strategy over a period of time that allows that to happen.
And Faggy, how about you? What's the aha moment that a
Yeah,
client might have at the 90-day point?
great question. I've seen a few 90 days in. First and foremost, because I work with nonprofits that are notoriously understaffed,
Right.
I expect my clients to feel some measure of relief, to feel like their load is a little lighter, a little easier, because they're working with me, and because we put systems in place, and because we've worked on ways that I can help abate how much you have to do. So that's one part. Second part is that they understand more deeply how marketing can help them achieve their goals and how it can't. From our work together, they should see success, right? So, for example, because we changed the marketing psychology and the copywriting for one client's event, it went from not getting any takers to being sold out, right? And then that client had the aha moment of, oh my gosh, copywriting, email subject lines, that can change everything. That can change how well we can promote this event. Or another client that I work with, we work on their social media presence. And they got inquiries from funders about who runs their social media, or telling them, wow, we see so much is going on, right? So these are aha moments where we've done enough together that they see a result, and they learn to value even more what marketing can do to move their mission forward.
Okay, Faigy, let's change scenarios then, okay?
Okay.
You're the keynote speaker on stage. There's
Okay.
250 people in the audience.
Oh boy.
They all just came out of corporate. Don't
Okay.
it's not even real. Don't be afraid of public speaking. There's literally no people, right?
Literally no people. Okay.
Okay. But there's 250 people in the audience, so pressure's on. And they all just came out of corporate. They all became fractional CMOs yesterday. Like, this is their second day being a fractional CMO, okay, out on their own. All right. So I'm going to, we're going to go back and forth with Evynn. I'm going to give you guys the beginning of a thought of something you're going to say to that audience, and you fill in the blanks with a little bit of explanation, okay? So the first thing you're saying to them, Faigy, is fractional CMOs, I mean, when you're just starting out, something you're going to be shocked by is
how often the people on marketing and development at nonprofits have not planned out their marketing in advance. That, I think, is number one. There's a lot less time when there's so much to do to plan in advance. You're generally running on much tighter timelines. Or sometimes it's an afterthought, right? I work with people in marketing. And so when you're a fractional CMO coming in, you're going to be surprised to find that your counterpart might say to you, people send me their event flyer all the time and tell me to roll this out with an email and everything tomorrow. Like, that's not uncommon. That's the big one.
All right. And Evynn, how about you? You're talking to the same audience, right? Starting out as fractional CMO, something that's going to shock you is what?
Something that may shock you, and perhaps it shouldn't, because if you've been working in-house for some time, a lot of people will have this experience, but it feels different when you're doing it from the outside in, is, all right, you're going into an organization. Does everybody agree about what you should be doing, and do they have any idea what you should be doing? A lot of times the answer will be no. And that is why I think it is very important to help prepare them in those early days of your engagement by setting expectations, setting a clear roadmap, being very, very curious, and bringing everybody to the table to operate effectively.
Well, you just accidentally or otherwise perfectly preloaded the next question. Good job. And so the next one is talking to that same audience, Evynn, is like, and what you're going to find is many clients just don't understand.
Many clients just don't understand what marketing is at their organization, why they need it, and what it's meant to accomplish. So as a fractional CMO, I think that one of the most important things that you can do is help them to get very, very clear so that they can execute against something tangible rather than vibes.
Right. And then Faigy, what do you think? Something most clients just don't understand is what?
If you're walking in, and I'm going to tell you, most of your clients don't understand the difference between nonprofit marketing and fundraising. A lot of times the two are conflated, and you really need to spend a lot of time untangling the two and outlining how they work together and why they're each important, rather than having them all mixed up. Because when they're all mixed up, you get mistakes like asking for a donation when someone first meets you. I've heard that analogized as like asking someone to marry you on a first date.
Yes.
Right? So understanding the distinction is really the beginning of the work, and most of your clients won't know that yet.
Okay. And then Faigy, some intern is trying to wave you off because you've been on stage way too long.
Okay.
Right? And the music's coming up like it's the Oscars, and they want you to finish up. But by God, you're going to leave these people with one more thing.
Okay.
And it's this, right? Before they like push me off this stage, I got to tell you, the number one lesson I have for you about getting clients is what?
Okay. The music is playing, and I'm going to try to say as much as possible in 2 seconds, which is, don't forget, show me you know me is the name of the game. Show me you understand me. Show me you know what my pains are, what I want to accomplish. Show me you know me, and be authentic and kind.
All right. And Evynn, how about you? The one thing you'd want to let these new fractional CMOs know about getting clients or finding clients?
I'm going to build on what Faigy said, but go in a slightly different direction. I agree that being able to show clients that you really know them, that you understand them, is critical for driving client acquisition. And in order to give yourself time to do that effectively, you must get a handle on your processes, your systems. You need to eliminate as much as possible the reinvention of the wheel and the busy work that goes into building your business so that you can work in the business, can you work in the business that you're partnering with, and not so much on your businesses.
Right.
So what I would say is master those processes so that you can spend your time doing deep work.
All right. And so you guys are both off the stage now. This is a big conference. So now you're going to go out onto the conference floor with all the booths and all the people walking around and stuff. There's a lot of potential clients there. And you end up talking to like a fair number of them, right? So as you're talking to these prospective clients, given that virtually everyone you're ever going to talk to on the client side believes they know at least a lot about marketing, if not everything about marketing, then what, as you're talking to clients these days, what do they tend to overrate when it comes to a marketing concept or tool or platform or something? What do they overrate in marketing these days? And what's just criminally underrated that you just wish, companies would just focus on, as almost like a fundamental? So what's overrated in marketing these days, talking to clients, and what's underrated? Everyone, we'll start with you.
I think that what is overrated in speaking with clients a lot of the times is finding the perfect message for everybody. People often think about messaging and they think, how can I create a monolithic message that's going to make everybody want to buy my product or my service,
Right.
etc. If you find out, please do let me know, because then I can take down my shingle and find something else to do. But also, you will have probably solved many significant problems in the world as well, or at least you have some ability to do that.
What's underrated?
Yeah, and so what they criminally underrate is segmentation and the capacity for listening. I find myself repeating this everywhere I go. I often tell people empathy is the superpower in marketing. I know that sounds really touchy-feely, so I'm going to get a little bit more serious. Do you actually know your clientele well? Are you conducting market research? When you say that you have the perfect offer for your clients, ask yourself these 2 questions and be very, very clear about the answer and make sure that it's validated. How do you know, and who did you ask?
And Faigy, how about you? What's overrated when you're talking to clients these days, and what's underrated that you wish they paid more attention to in marketing?
I really love what Evynn said about empathy. It's true. Um, I think I'll say it shortly and then in the long version: overrated social media, underrated email. To say it in short,
Yeah.
to say it more elaborately, social media is good if you have strategic goals, if your audience lives there, if you understand what you can and can't accomplish, if you have the capacity to do it on staff or to outsource it, but don't do it at the expense of other more critical things, especially if you don't know why you're doing it. You don't have to be on a million social media platforms. Don't underrate understanding the culture of a social media platform. So you really want to be strategic about how you engage on social, but don't overrate its importance. Your audience might not be on social, or they might not buy on social. On the flip side, email has a very high ROI. So driving your audience to email is so important. So if you're on social, one of your goals should be to capture people's email addresses. Because as we saw when TikTok went dark,
Right.
you rent it, you don't own it, right? And email is not subject to algorithms. It lands in people's inboxes. You can build trust and rapport. Email ROI is so, so critically important. And I so often meet clients who don't know where the email lists are, can't remember the last time they sent an email, aren't really being strategic about their email. So really, really flip those two things around and think about email first and social second.
And then, excellent question. Also, because a lot of my business is writing emails for clients, so obviously I'm going to be into that.
Yes.
As you're talking to clients or prospective clients and trying to decide, on your own during the conversation whether they're a good fit for you or you're a good fit for them, or whether they'd be a good fit for any fractional CMO, right? What's a red flag and what's a green flag? Faggy. Sorry, I said the same syllable twice. So, Faigy, what's a red flag and a green flag when you're talking to a prospective client?
I'm going to take a page out of Evynn's book and say the negative first and then the positive. So a red flag is if you've worked with 5 different people before and can't quite articulate why you didn't like them and kind of just are cycling through externals to try to solve your problem. To me, that's a red flag. A green flag is that you recognize your current staff members are stretched thin, have valuable insights, and need some of their time back. To me, that's a really big red flag, and that you understand marketing requires some budget.
Right. And Evynn, how about you? What's a red flag and one green flag when you're talking to prospects?
I think a red flag is when you're doing discovery with a client or even having a casual conversation and they are discussing their marketing efforts or they're discussing their team, and there's a lot more negativity and blame, or there's this marketing seems to be doing X, Y, and Z, and sales does not like them, or things like that. If I hear a lot of blame rather than curiosity, if I hear a lot of finger pointing and less thinking about relationship, that is a red flag. It's not an insurmountable red flag. In fact, it can be a major opportunity for a fractional CMO to make impact, but it is something that gives me pause. A green flag, curiosity, engagement, perhaps they're bringing in new staff members, perhaps they're wanting to grow as an organization in some way, something that I try to differentiate myself in thinking about fractional work is how can I, of course, help them achieve their tactical goals over the course of our engagement. That's one of the things that I'm thinking about. But then the other thing I love to think about is for the team that is there, how do I leave them not just better in terms of their workload, but how do I leave them better able to do the work, better able to continuously learn, to stay on trend? And essentially, how do I develop that team to create my obsolescence?
Okay. All right. So, sort of a bonus fourth scenario, because you guys don't know each other. And typically guests on this podcast don't. Everyone is pretty random for how people end up on which episode, right? So you're in a building full of fractional CMOs. So you don't know any of them, but you know that the person who just got on the elevator with you, so now there's 2 of you, is also a fractional CMO, and that's all you know. So you guys are gonna finish my sentence, but ask each other the question. So Evynn, we'll start with you. Faigy gets on the elevator, and you say, "Hey, since I have you here, let me ask you."
Hey, Faigy, since I have you here, let me ask you, what do you think that enterprise and direct consumer marketing could learn from nonprofit marketing?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a really good question. Am I supposed to answer?
Well, I would hope so, but
Okay, sure.
kind of rude not to. But,
Nonprofits are.
nonprofit folks have your own mentality, so maybe you're not going to answer.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That is a great question. And I really appreciate it because I think sometimes nonprofit marketing is underrated. And so I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot to share. I think nonprofits are really good about doing more with less, about trying to stretch a dollar. And so they're very critical about how they spend the budget. So I think they're much more cautious with ad money, with tools, making sure the tools don't have overlap. And I think all businesses could benefit, right, from being a little more strategic and cautious so that the money is spent wisely.
And then Faigy, it's your turn. You can ask any question you want. So, like, since I've got you here, let me ask you.
Yeah. Yeah, since I've got you here, and I understand you also do coaching. From the beginning of the podcast, I remember you do fractional work and coaching. I'd love to hear how you support leaders in businesses, right? How you especially when they're open to learning. What does that journey look like? I'd really love to hear about where they start, especially because if I meet someone, right, I'm always looking for good referrals.
Sure, sure. Thank you for that question, and thank you for bringing up thank you for bringing up the coaching in particular. So, a big part of why I do or why this coaching is part of my overall offering, and I think about this both at the team level and at the individual executive level, is sometimes people understand that they have some kind of problem, or they have a profound desire to solve something very specific and it's just not moving along at their organization. How I like to lean in there is to especially in, when there's a board involved or when there is that pretty um, populous chief C-suite. When there's a pretty populous C-suite, I like to spend time helping people understand what their communication barriers are, as well as what limiting, I don't want to sound too touchy-feely about this, but what their limiting beliefs are about how their business runs. I find that a lot of time people get an idea in their head and they really, really dig their heels in. And they're like, marketing should be doing this, sales should be doing this, X, Y, Z. And as an outsider, it's easy for me to see, well, actually, you might have some other options than what you're thinking about right now, or perhaps you might want to communicate that to your board a little bit differently. Sometimes, in order to move a project or an initiative along, people really need help at the individual level. And so that's a big part of why I offer that. Executive coaching is really, I'm thinking about the individual as a part of the whole, and sometimes individuals spend so much time in their own way that first we have to address that before we can fix anything else.
Right. So, thanks both of you for being here. Before I let you go, Evynn and then Faigy. Evynn, tell me who should be contacting you these days, and what's the preferred way to do that?
Sure thing. So I can, well, firstly, who should be contacting me these days? I
Mm-hmm.
primarily work with professional service organizations, B2B, and technology as well. I am especially happy to work with mission-driven organizations and people with big ideas that are changing the world who need a lot of help, or maybe just a little bit of help, bringing those great ideas to the marketplace effectively. I can be best reached via LinkedIn or at my website, Evynn@evyntyler.com. Or that's actually the email, but I gave you the spoiler. My website is evyntyler.com. My
There
email
you go.
is evyn@evyntyler.com.
And Faigy, how about you? Who should be reaching out to you these days, and what's the best way to get you?
Yeah, if you work at a nonprofit in marketing or development, if your organization has at least 2 to 3 staff members, they don't need to have a marketing professional, but just a
Right.
few people on staff too, much bigger than that. Especially if you work on basic needs, mental health, but if you're doing something innovative, I love learning about a lot of different good causes. And most importantly, if you feel like your team members are stretched thin, if you start hearing things like, I don't have time to write all these thank you letters, for example, right? I specialize in helping organizations when they've hit that point so that your staff members can do what they need to do. So that's when it's a good point to reach out to me. Or if you feel like you could be reaching more people and you're very frustrated that they haven't heard about your mission. So I specialize in certain tools like Google Ad Grants, using AI, things like that. And so there's a lot of tools in the toolbox. The best way to reach me is at my email, faigy@smallorgcoms.com, or on LinkedIn. It's /Faigy. I got the vanity URL pretty early, so that's
Yeah.
exciting for me.
All right, both of you. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I learned a lot. Uh,
You.
I will say this is episode 181, and we change the questions every 25 or so episodes. I will say that the for the overrated versus underrated question that we did so far, everything that anyone has ever mentioned around underrated would have been true 100 years ago,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and all of the overrated stuff is very modern.
Hmm.
I find that's true as well.
Yeah, it's fundamentals on the underrated side, I guess.
People sure have seemingly walked away from a lot of the fundamentals, and then they're so focused on attribution and things like that that they're like,
Yep.
I don't understand why people don't, aren't getting my message. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, have you thought about those people at all outside of the transaction?
Yeah.
It's all
They're just
about
a spreadsheet somewhere.
relationships. Yep.
Yep. All right. So thank you, both of you, for being here. It's been fantastic. Thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see everyone next time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much.